48 years of serving in this chamber, I will not be returning to this hallowed chamber for another legislative session.
A bittersweet end to nearly 50 years in the Georgia House of Representatives for Calvin Smyre as he gives his last speech from the floor of the House. Good evening and welcome to Lawmakers on this, the final day of the 2022 Georgia legislative session. It's Sonny Die, and we have a 1-hour special show coming your way. I'm Donna Lowry in Atlanta. More on Representative Calvin Smyre's emotional final remarks coming up. The chambers are still in session, and they could be there for hours looking to pass bills. We'll keep you updated on the latest with reports from the Capitol throughout the show. Joining us in the studio for commentary, two journalists who have covered this session and those in the past. But first, let's head to the Capitol for the latest on all the day's news from Capitol correspondent Brenda Waters. Hi, Brenda.
Hey, Donna. It's hard to believe that the legislative session is over. 40 days goes by so quickly. Several bills were passed in the House today, but what everyone is going to remember is Dean Smyre's farewell.
Many tears were shed on the House floor. Representative Calvin Smyre, the Dean of the House, is leaving.
I'm going to miss you, my dear brother. Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I yield the well.
I've cried about today. I've been happy about today. I've cried because of being selfish and knowing that I will not have my friend here on a daily basis.
After nearly half a century in the House of Representatives, Dean Calvin Smyre is hanging up his hat, but will not be resting on his laurels.
After 48 years of serving in this chamber, I will not be returning to this hallowed chamber for another legislative session. I'm honored that some of my family members are here. My father is 96 years old, Carter Smyre. Turn around so they can see it. How can you measure a 48-year career in the Georgia House? Is it by the number of bills you introduce or pass? Is it by the positions you hold? I don't think so. You measure your career by how you honor this institution. And I honor the House of Representatives, this institution.
Representative Smyre was 27 years old when he was sworn in 1975. He has been nominated by President Biden to become the next U.S. ambassador to the Dominican Republic. He is awaiting Senate confirmation.
With that, Mr. Speaker, I yield the well.
A portrait was presented to Dean Smyre. It will hang on the walls outside the House chambers, where other Georgia dignitaries are displayed.
House Bill 1013, also known as the Mental Health Parity Act, is now a law, signed by Governor Kemp this afternoon.
Today we fulfill Speaker Ralston's vision and that of so many others who have partnered for this accomplishment, to bring hope to the many families across Georgia who have a loved one suffering from some form of mental or behavioral challenge.
House Bill 1013 was the only bill signed publicly at the Capitol today.
In the Senate, it's the bottom of the ninth. Bases are loaded, and Lieutenant Governor Jeff Duncan is on the mound as he continued the tradition of throwing out the first pitch of Sonny Die.
Little arm side run, here we go. Give me that ball, give me that ball. There we go.
Then the legislative marathon started. The Senate passed a House amended version of the COVID passport ban, SB 345, which would keep state and other entities from asking for proof of having had the COVID vaccine. Next up, state income tax for Georgians. The Senate amended House Bill 1437, providing tiered tax rates benefiting lower-income households. But when the House objected to the change,
I move that the Senate insist on its substitute to House Bill 1437.
Later in the afternoon, Huffstetler asked for the issue to be settled in a conference committee. Then they passed the 2023 fiscal year budget after coming to a compromise in the last days of the session during conference committee meetings. The changes included losing out on a Senate priority, funding to improve third-grade reading levels.
We were not able to hold our monies in that. We were able to start a great discussion about quality overall in education, and I think you're going to see that conversation continue into the summer, and really appreciate the governor's office and his staff for meeting us on that priority.
But Senator Tillery also warned everyone they needed to keep vigilant when it came to future spending.
The storm clouds are on the horizon concerning economic conditions, and we need to know that and be honest with our constituents as we approach the next 12 months.
After a lunch break, one of the many bills that the Senate took up was HB 1435. This bill will help students struggling financially to finish college.
This is a gap funding, needs-based bill to assist those students in the university system that have completed 80% of their curriculum and are prepared to graduate. It fills the gap that ensures that these students graduate.
There's a big cohort of students that are needing assistance that can thrive and fill the workforce and take pride in achieving post-secondary certificates and graduate, but we need to put the money on the table to make that possible.
The bill passed 53-1.
And that's my Capitol Report, the last one of this legislative session. This is my second year covering the legislature for Lawmakers. I've learned more about politics than I ever thought I could, and it's been a thrill. Donna, back to you.
And we've loved having you, but you're not over tonight, right? We're coming back to you several times, so this is not bye.
The speaker's up next, yes.
Okay, that's right.
All right.
Thank you. Well, we brought back a couple of journalists from our Lawmakers team for this special one-hour Sonny Die show. First, Patricia Murphy, who served as the Lawmakers Capitol correspondent in 2020. She has covered state and national politics, including Congress and the White House. She's now the political insider columnist for the AJC, and we're so happy to have her. Also returning tonight is Raul Bali, who helped produce this show for years and is a former on-air correspondent for Lawmakers and so much more. He is now the politics reporter for WABE Radio. Welcome back to both of you. I understand we have a few minutes until Patricia interviews the speakers, so I just wanted to ask you, like, overall, coming to this to me felt like a different Sonny Die. Like, today went kind of slow.
It has been, it feels like the calm before the storm a little bit. There have been a lot of goodbyes, a lot of really friendly remembrances among members, a lot of side conversations and backdoor conversations, but a lot of big ticket items that we are all still waiting for. And the clock is ticking. I mean, there are 5 hours left of this night, and we have major legislation that we are still looking to see pass.
Big ticket items still left to go, and we're still also waiting on a lot of bills. Like, I kind of felt that there was going to be this flurry of bills today, and we haven't seen that.
What was different is it's just such a slow start. You know, in the House, we had the farewell for Calvin Smyre. Then 1:30-ish, we had the mental health parity signing, and then it's like, what are we all doing here? And
then there was another break.
And some of the, the tax reform is in a conference committee. Medical cannabis, I understand that conference committee is just now wrapping up. I mean, these things are wrapping up, and you're right. We're already under 5 hours to go at this point.
Yeah, okay. We'll see what happens. Midnight comes so fast. We're going to return to the Capitol, and Capitol correspondent Brenda Waters was an interview with House Speaker David Ralston. Brenda.
Hey, Donna, the one and only. Hi, Speaker. You know, I'm going to say this in your voice, and I've heard you say this many times. Have all members voted? Well, not only did they vote in the House and the Senate, but they passed your bill, 1013. What's going through your heart and your head right now?
It's been a good day. It's been a good session. We worked very hard over a long period of time to get that bill passed, and it wasn't just me. It was so many other people, Mary Margaret Oliver, and Todd Jones, and Sharon Cooper, and Ben Watson from the Senate, and Dean Burke, and Brian Strickland. I mean, just so many good people. Kevin Tanner, who's a former member here. I could go on and on and on, but you know, it was it got a little bit crazy there for a few days, but you know, I told them that truth is a powerful thing. It wipes out a lot of today's been a great day with the bill signing. I met with a lot of the advocates, and it was just kind of an overwhelming experience today.
And I understand your wife kind of pushed this along with you.
She did.
So you're a husband who listens to his wife.
I am. I am.
How do you think lives will change because of this law now?
I think that, first of all, in a very general way, I think that Georgians who have experienced this problem, and it's many, many families, almost all families in the state have been touched in some way by mental illness. So in a general way, they know we care about them now, and that we've heard their cry, and we've heard their calls for help, and we've kind of felt their frustration. In a specific way, now we have more treatment options, we have more bed space, we have the ability to work together with the law enforcement community and the mental health professionals to work together on some of these issues. It's an issue that certainly has overwhelmed the law enforcement community. We've put in a piece to develop a workforce here in the state. Giving people some options and giving them, and most of all, I guess I left out the most important piece, is the parity piece. So that people, through both their private as well as their public insurance carrier, will have insurance coverage for these type of illnesses.
Well, thank you, sir. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Good luck to you. Thank you. Hope to see you next year. Donna, back to you.
Thank you so much, Brenda. So we heard from the speaker. This was his baby, this 1013, this huge mental health parity bill. Now it goes to the next level, and that is standing it up, making sure it goes to the people. What are your thoughts on that? We're talking July 1st that, you know, he's saying we're going to be able to see this happen.
You know, you talk about this being the speaker's baby. But the two real forces, who he just mentioned on the air, State Representative Mary Margaret Oliver and State Representative Todd Jones, they were really the authors of this legislation. And so I talked to State Representative Mary Margaret Oliver afterwards, and that was my main question. What happens next? How quickly will some of this start? And she goes, this summer. That, you know, there's about $189 million inside this package. They're going to be going out for outpatient, for increased number of beds, for crises. There's going to be payments going out to providers. And then further down the road, there's this cancelable loan program for new providers, new mental health providers, and also money to fund brand new co-responder teams. And these are the teams that are a mix of police officers and mental health professionals who go out. And those teams, there have been some pilots, like in Forsyth County, and they have had great success with these, where they've seen a significant reduction of when these incidents happen, these teams go out, it's fewer arrests and more people getting help.
Yeah, well, we're going to have Mary Margaret Oliver, Chairman Mary Margaret Oliver, on a few minutes, so we'll talk some more. But first, Brenda is back to the Gold Dome with her, and she has someone else with her. Brenda.
I do. Chairman Jeff Mullis, who is leaving us after 22 years.
Brenda, I hate it. It's a sad, bittersweet situation.
Why are you smiling?
Well, I try to be happy at all times.
Okay, all right. What are you going to miss the most, you think?
Well, people. I enjoy serving, and I enjoy working with the people here to make sure we produce good legislation for the people of Georgia. So I've been here 22 years, and I look forward to going home.
Going home. What are you going to do?
I'm going to focus on my job and maybe a little farming, a little bit, not anything major. And then just see how I can help work in my community.
Okay. Now, you're a proponent of horse racing.
I am.
Okay. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Didn't do too well this year.
Didn't do too well. Okay. Are you disappointed?
I am, but it's okay. You know, next year's a non-election year. Maybe they have more success.
Okay. You won't be here, though.
Well, they'll just have to do it without me. But that's okay.
What was most amazing about your 22 years, and what was most disappointing?
Well, my journey was amazing. All the wonderful people like you that have been a part of my life here and been inspirational. So I knew that things not always what it appears to be. Occasionally when you run into the ditch, there's somebody to help pull you out and make the legislation win. And I've been very successful, and only by the relationships that I have with so many people here. So I'm going to miss that, but I look forward to going home.
Was it a hard decision for you
to
decide?
It was. I decided about January that it's just time for me to move on. No major reason, just 22 years seemed long enough. I never intended to be here 22 years, thought I'd stay 10, and then I just got better at being effective and making things happen. And that's what I want to be known for when I leave, is that I could get things accomplished.
Okay. Any advice for the person who will be taking your seat?
Take what you do seriously, but not yourself too seriously. Enjoy the moment, enjoy your colleagues, try to make sure that you take care of business for the constituents you represent.
All right. Thank you.
Brenda,
congratulations.
Thanks for having me.
It's been a good ride, huh?
It's been a great journey, and thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, dear.
All right, Donna, back to you.
Thank you so much, Brenda. He's so well known for the music he has during the Rules Committee.
And this is the end of an era. He is the last Republican who served in the minority in the Senate, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
So that's, again, your end of an era, and also more institutional knowledge walking out the door.
Walking out the door. I did want to ask you, Patricia, one of the things that he really pushed down to the last minute was to get Buckhead City to have it, you know, the city of Buckhead come out of the city of Atlanta. It didn't go anywhere.
It didn't go anywhere, largely because it did not broaden its coalition beyond Senator Jeff Mullis and a handful of other Republicans from rural parts of the state. They never got any lawmakers from Buckhead on board, never got any lawmakers at all from Atlanta on board, and could not even explain to the rest of the General Assembly, if we do this to Atlanta, if we split half of Atlanta away, what prevents us from doing the same thing to your city next time? And so there were tons of unanswered questions. If anybody could move a bill, it would be Jeff Mullis, and even he couldn't get this thing out of the gate.
Yeah, and it's amazing because we started off this session thinking that would be a big bill, and that actually fizzled out early on, you know. So I'm told Brenda has somebody else at the Gold Dome with an interview. Brenda, tell us who you have now.
I have Senator Kim Jackson. How are you?
Hi, it's good to see you.
You like my little phrasing, piggyback. So one of your bills, you wanted suicide to be treated as work-related when a police officer commits suicide. It's something that would happen on the job or because of the job. How is that going? I know it's piggybacking on something else.
That's right. I'd like to say it caught a ride with another vehicle, and so it's over in the House waiting for an agree. But hopefully we'll be able to do this for all public safety officers. So if any public safety officer dies by suicide, their family would receive monies from the indemnification fund.
And this is a big deal across the country, especially after the attack on the Capitol. A wife was talking about her husband who committed suicide, and she's getting nothing. She said she hasn't even gotten any phone calls. So how important is this to folks?
Yeah, this is so important. And part of this is also about reducing the stigma around suicide and talking about the leading cause of suicide the leading cause of death among law enforcement officers is suicide. And so for me, this is about making sure families are taken care of while also passing the mental health bill and doing other things to make sure that suicide is preventable. But for those who slip through the cracks, we need to provide for their families.
All right. Now, you're just ending your first 2-year term.
That's right.
Okay, what are your thoughts about that term?
You know,
Good thoughts, bad thoughts?
I've had great thoughts and bad thoughts, but mostly I feel like I've taken a master class in public policy, and I've been drinking from a fire hose, but I've learned a lot, and I'm really proud of the work I've been able to accomplish this year.
And what is your background?
So I'm an Episcopal priest, and I'm an urban farmer, so I bring both of those to the table.
Have you used any of that here at the house?
I have talked a lot about both of those things.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
All right, thanks. Donna, back to you.
Thank you so much, Brenda. There's plenty more to come on this special hour-long Sonny Die show. Stay tuned.
Cigna is a a proud partner of Georgia Public Broadcasting and Georgia Lawmakers. Cigna's mission is to improve the health, well-being, and peace of mind of those we serve. More at Cigna.com to learn how you can help support your employees' physical and emotional well-being.
Lawmakers is made possible by Georgia Farm Bureau. With over 80 years of helping everyone understand the importance of agriculture in our state. After all, ag is Georgia's #1 industry. Food and fiber production represents over $74 billion in output of Georgia's strong economy. The Georgia Farm Bureau legislative team works to represent producers across Georgia at the state capitol during the session and year-round. Georgia Farm Bureau, the voice of Georgia farmers.
Georgia Humanities, connecting people and communities across Georgia to encourage conversation, education, and understanding. Find out more at www.georgiahumanities.org.
We are the Southern Environmental Law Center. At SELC, we not only take on the toughest environmental challenges, we win, forcing the removal of more than 250 million tons of toxic coal ash, defeating repeated attempts to bring offshore drilling to our coasts, and securing clean air and water protections for communities across our region. Your most powerful environmental defender is rooted right here in the South.
Welcome back to Lawmakers on this special hour-long Sonny Dice show. With me in the studio are Rahul Bali, who's the politics reporter for WAB Radio, and Patricia Murphy, the political insider columnist for the AJC. So lots to talk about. Let's talk about what's still out there. You know, it's still, midnight will be coming, but we still have time to see some things. What are some things, those big bills that you expect?
Yes, we had talked about those big ticket items that we've been waiting for results for weeks on some of these bills. And now here we are practically at the 11th hour. I guess we're like in the 9th hour or so. The elections bill, I'm waiting to see what's going to happen with that because the House passed a relatively expansive elections bill that increased a significant amount of investigation powers for the GBI, a number of other changes to election administration. The Senate passed a 2-page bill and stripped almost all of that language out of it. Now we have these two extremely different versions of a bill and a GOP base waiting to see what is delivered to them next. And so I do think Republicans feel a lot of pressure to get an elections bill out of the Capitol this year, but what it looks like is extremely unclear right now. A couple other bills we're waiting for. The question about the bill on transgender sports, that is something that has really stalled. It got through the Senate, but we have not seen any action on the House side. Somebody tried to actually push it through the Senate side again as an amendment. That didn't work earlier today. And so that is something that even Governor Kemp mentioned in his State of the State address that has not gotten the wheels on it that we thought it might have, having gotten a nod from the governor. So those are two I'm watching.
What are you watching?
Medical cannabis. So for those in the audience who don't know, there are 23,000 patients on Georgia's medical cannabis oil registry, another 16,000 caregivers. This is from legislation from a few years ago where you could legalize possession of low THC oil for 17 medical conditions, but you couldn't legally buy it in Georgia. That was the catch. And the way that was going to be fixed in Georgia was to give these licenses for operations to home grow and then produce this low THC oil. And the process has been just really, really slow. You hear the frustration. You see the frustration. There were 6 licenses awarded, not finalized, but awarded, and it just looks like it's charging towards legal action. And so you had so many lawmakers jump in, try to file bills. So there's a conference committee report, and I just got some of the notes on it. The 6 companies that have been awarded, not finalized, but awarded, their applications would be reviewed. Then everybody else who did not get a license, they would be bidding for 3 brand new licenses. Here's the last part that's the most interesting. If any other further protest or lawsuits would not go to Fulton County Superior Court or another court, it would go to the state's brand new statewide business court. And I think that's probably one of the important things. A lot of forces have been involved, but my understanding, and what we hope to ask the governor here in a few minutes, is the governor's office has been heavily involved in this.
Yeah, and so we knew that Speaker Murphy was involved when it was in the House. So you're saying the governor's office may be coming in on this. This is huge because it's something that this state has fought for a long time. It's been in place for 2 years, but then all this litigation, as you mentioned.
That's the concern is and this early in the session, State Representative Alan Powell said, I don't want to see this tied up in court for 2, 3, 4 years. Look, Fulton County courts don't move that fast in the first place. This could have been tied up for years. So I find that compromise very interesting.
Okay, well, we're going to give you a chance to ask the governor, because joining our show now from the state capitol is Governor Brian Kemp. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Hey, good evening. Good to be with you guys.
Well, I'm here with Patricia Murphy of the AJC and Rahul Bali of WABE Radio, and we'll all three ask questions, but I want to start with this. You know that we know you're going around to both chambers tonight, as we understand, to talk to them a little bit. Can you give us a little idea of what you're going to be talking with them about?
Yeah. Well, really just going to thank them, number one, for their service, but also talk about what a historic session it's been. I mean, I know the House still has to pass the budget, but the work the Senate's already done to get that done, we just got a great budget for education, public safety, health care, our economy, transportation. The mental health bill passed today, so we've had a lot of great legislative achievements, a lot of my priorities that we've done with teacher pay raises and a lot of other things, and really going to thank them, but also remind them we got a few issues left we got to get done tonight.
Governor Rahul Bali here from WABE. Can you name one or two of those issues that you still want to see get across the finish line tonight?
Well, we've also, we've been real involved in saving girls' sports. We've been talking for days now about a potential income tax cut. We've got the divisive concepts legislation that's still out there, number of educational issues. So we'll be continuing to push on those tonight, and I know a lot of other people are as well. And I know we've been meeting, too, over the last several days with the House and the Senate on the potential cannabis legislation. There's been a lot of different ideas that have been put out there, and we're trying to put something together, and we're involved in those discussions as well.
Governor, one quick follow-up. Why did you feel it was necessary to step into this process? Generally, you let the legislative process work out. Why did you feel it was necessary to step into the medical cannabis debate?
Well, we've been letting the legislators work things out, but I think it's important for our attorneys to be involved. I mean, we're very instrumental in getting the first bill passed that set up the independent commission that has done their work. And of course, there's been a lot of legal issues there. I know the Attorney General's weighed in on that. And we are where we are. There's a lot of frustration, I think, in the legislature. We all want to get oil to those citizens that need it. That was the original priority, and so that's why we're involved. We want to try to help do that. And if there's ways that we can give information to either side and try to bring people together, that's what we want to try to do. It's all about the patients.
Governor, it's Patricia Murphy. Another outstanding issue that we have not seen resolved tonight is the future of a possible across-the-board tax cut. What are you looking for to come out of the legislature, and is that something that you would sign?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we've been pushing for that. I said early on I'd work with the legislature to get that done this year. We've had some great discussions all through the weekend, even as late as last night, and so I feel good about where we are. I know there's been a few last-minute negotiations between some issues that the House and the Senate has had. But look, I'm supportive of the proposal. We just got to get it to the floor and vote on it, and that's what I'm urging them to do.
Governor, it's Donna Lowry again. As you mentioned, a lot of your priorities have passed, and one that we're still waiting on deals with the divisive concepts when it comes to teaching race in schools. How important is that to you? I know you mentioned that in your State of the State address.
Well, I think that's a great question, Donna. It's not about teaching race in school. It's about making sure that our kids are not indoctrinated. We certainly support teaching history. We just don't want it to be somebody's version of history or somebody trying to take their viewpoints and pushing it down on our kids. We just want people to learn the facts and learn from history, the good, the bad, and the ugly of it. And not having someone's agenda pushed on our school children. We also don't want them having access to obscene materials and a lot of other issues. So we're working very hard on that. We're hopeful that that'll get done. and that certainly has been a priority of my administration.
Yeah, just one other quick question. The budget surplus, a game changer for this legislative session. What are your expectations going forward? Is it sustainable to keep up the revenues?
Well, as you know, a lot of the money we had in the amended budget was historic one-time money because we kept our economy open during the pandemic when many people were critical of me doing that. And I appreciate the legislature putting that money to good use. Number one, sending it back to the taxpayers in the form of a credit for every individual that paid taxes last year or filed a return, $250 a person, $500 for a family, over $1 billion that we're not just wasting on pork barrel projects, but we're putting back in the pocketbooks of Georgians to help this offset this disastrous policies we're seeing in Washington, D.C. that's created 40-year high inflation. Because of that conservative budgeting as well that we've all done here in the Capitol under the leadership, we're also been able to suspend the gas tax for 2 months. And look, right now you need it. I mean, gas taxes are out the roof. I've heard from so many people that have been in Florida for spring break and they come home and they're like, man, gas prices are so much cheaper in Georgia. We're helping Georgians try to offset the rampant inflation because of bad policies in Washington, D.C. And that's really what the budget's this year are about, fulfilling our promises, like the largest teacher pay raise in state history and building on that with additional $2,000 to fulfill my promise of $5 to start with to help our educators. We're also doing the same thing with our state law enforcement, a lot of other hard-working Georgians in our state. So this has been an unprecedented budget year, but also we've done a lot of great things too, policy-wise.
Well, thank you so much, Governor, for talking with us. It'll be quieter, of course, in the Capitol after today, I know for you. Thanks so much for joining us on Sonny Die.
Have a good rest of the night. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so thoughts about what some of the things you heard, but did you hear what you wanted to hear in terms of medical marijuana?
I think confirming that he had gotten involved in the process. And we were hearing that around the Capitol. A week ago, we were hearing folks say the governor needs to step in because you had so many, you had 3 competing bills between chairmen in the House. The speaker stepped in. Then the Senate had a whole different idea. So this was one of those times where I was looking for it. And it did also jump out to me that the governor mentioned he's still trying to work on a girls' sports bill.
Yeah, he did bring that up. And that was, we talked about that earlier. It looked like it may not go anywhere, but he's still pushing for that.
And I think that's so interesting because he talked about it in his State of the State address. That was one issue that has just not had tons of momentum. And people behind the scenes were feeling that was because the governor had not been pushing it as hard as some of his other priorities. And so for him to list that tonight at this point in the session and to name that in his top 2 priorities that he's still looking to pass, that came as a surprise to me. And it certainly is a signal to lawmakers also that this has more serious and significant support from the governor than they may have even realized.
Yeah, I get the impression that he's going to go into those chambers and he may be pushing these priorities. Don't you feel that he's saying this is the last minute, thank you, but let's finish it off?
That's going to be interesting to see if he does, you know, a more thankful speech, thank you for serving and passing most of my agenda, or if he does make a specific whether it's a plea or just, hey, let's get these things done. I definitely want to watch that when he speaks to the chambers here in a few minutes.
Yeah, so he's been ticking off of quite a few things, you know, but he still has a way to go on all this.
And let's think about where all of these lawmakers are going from here tonight. Governor Kemp is hitting out on the campaign trail this week. He has multiple campaign stops in North Georgia to go tell voters what he brought home. He has a big primary in front of him, and he's not the only one. There are a number of Republican lawmakers who have challenges from their right, and they know they are going to wake up in the morning, maybe sleep in a little bit because it's obviously going to be a late night, and they're going to start campaigning tomorrow. And they need to be able to tell those voters, particularly if they have a primary on the right, they need to be able to tell their base voters, this is what we got done for you. And then the Democratic members are going to be able to go in November and say, and this is how I would do it better. So it's they are feeling a lot more pressure than just getting bills passed tonight.
Yeah, we've talked about in the past, they always finish before the Masters. They're going to have to really get on the road. I did talk to a lawmaker today that said, I said, enjoy your post-session time. And he said, oh, no. I have work to do because I'm running. And so you're right, Patricia. I think that this is a time where they are really, they're not going to be able to breathe after they finish if they're running for another office. And there are so many of them. higher office, and they're all the seats are up. Right. So I didn't know if you wanted to comment. You're just going to shake your head. Oh, okay.
No, it's. I'm taking 4 days off. And
You are.
I don't think.
I'm shocked.
And then
Oh.
it's off to the races.
Yeah.
On the campaign trail, and that's pretty much what you're hearing. I want to take a couple of days off, or I'm hitting the trail immediately. That you're hearing one or the other, whether it's the reporters or the lawmakers.
Okay. Well, we'll see what's going to happen. Now, in the meantime, we're going to take a break and come back with much more on this Sine Die 2022. You're watching Lawmakers on GPB.
Where I've represented for the last decade. I see my good House rep from Greene County here, Trey Rhodes, and I had just an outstanding experience.
Cigna is a proud partner of Georgia Public Broadcasting and Georgia Lawmakers. Cigna's mission is to improve the health, well-being, and peace of mind of those we serve. More at Cigna.com to learn how you can help support your employees' physical and emotional well-being.
Lawmakers is made possible by Georgia Farm Bureau. With over 80 years of helping everyone understand the importance of agriculture in our state. After all, ag is Georgia's #1 industry. Food and fiber production represents over $74 billion in output of Georgia's strong economy. The Georgia Farm Bureau legislative team works to represent producers across Georgia at the state capitol during the session and year-round. Georgia Farm Bureau, the voice of Georgia farmers.
Georgia Humanities, connecting people and communities across Georgia to encourage conversation, education, and understanding. Find out more at www.georgiahumanities.org.
We are the Southern Environmental Law Center. At SELC, we not only take on the toughest environmental challenges, we win, forcing the removal of more than 250 million tons of toxic coal ash, defeating repeated attempts to bring offshore drilling to our coasts, and securing clean air and water protections for communities across our region. Your most powerful environmental defender is rooted right here in the South.
Welcome back to Lawmakers on this special hour-long Sine Die show. I'm here with Patricia Murphy, the political insider columnist with the AJC, and Rahul Bali, politics reporter for WABE Radio. And we want to talk a little bit about the governor talked about the teachers and some of the things going on in the classroom. And I asked him the question about the divisive concepts, but he also talked about the money the teachers are getting. So mixed bag.
Yes, I think if you're a teacher in Georgia right now, you have a little bit of whiplash because you are hearing lawmakers and the governor praise these teachers all around the state for the heroic work that they've done during COVID. And the governor used that term heroic in his own State of the State address and said, and therefore we need to raise teachers' pay again. So there is a $2,000 pay raise on top of a $2,000 bonus that teachers around the state will be getting. And then that's going to go with other paraprofessionals. Anybody basically who works in a school is going to get a bonus as well. At the same time, this legislature has gone in and on multiple bills talked about what teachers can say, what they should say, and almost created an environment of suspicion around teachers. Can we trust teachers and what they are pushing onto your kids? And so to me, it's been a real mixed message toward teachers about the amount that they are appreciated and how grateful people are. And then on the other hand, can we really trust you? And that is what the message behind some of these bills. And those are really tailor-made for the Republican base. And that is because of the governor's race in Virginia that we saw at the beginning of this year when the governor of Virginia won on education issues and won on the idea of giving parents more visibility into schools and more control over schools. And so that has been almost a carbon copy of what we've seen down here in Georgia. And I'm sure we'll all be going around and speaking to teaching groups and talking to educators and seeing how they feel about how this session has gone for them.
Yeah, I think there's worry. There's the Parental Bill of Rights. There's the obscene materials. It's parents are getting more rights to talk about what's going on, but teachers are feeling like a lot of pressure about what they can and cannot do.
I'm really going to be interested to see what happens when these things are implemented. How do these things look in practice? Because If it's smooth and nothing big happens, especially in the suburban counties, we're going to go watch what happens in Gwinnett and Cobb and Fulton and Forsyth, just to see what happens with these. That's what's going to be interesting to watch is what does it look like in practice?
Yeah. Well, we're going to see. In the meantime, we're going back to the Capitol, where Brenda Waters has another guest. Hi, Brenda.
Hey, Donna. Representative Stacey Evans is with me right now. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, thanks for having
me. You're quite welcome. Let's talk about some of the high points and the low points for you this session.
Well, I'm going to talk about a low point that a lot of folks might not have mentioned, and that is bringing to light how poorly we treat working men and women in this state through the workers' comp system. Georgia is at the bottom of the barrel in the rates that we pay when folks get hurt on the job. In fact, we are 46th, and we are one of only 2 states in the whole country that doesn't index workers' comp reimbursement rates to the average median household income in Georgia. And that was really brought to light this year when there was an effort to try to bring us up in line with our brother and sister states. And all we could manage to come up with was $50. And that's just not how you treat people that are working day in and day out and get hurt on the job. So I think we were able to raise some awareness about that. That would be the bright side of the negative there. And hopefully we're going to have a study committee to look at treating people better.
Okay. What passed that bothered you the most? You went down to the well a lot. What bothered you the most that passed?
I will tell you, I don't know that I could pick just one thing. What I am most disappointed about, though, is number one, how we just threw local control out of the window this year, and we really just denied local communities the right to control local legislation that affects only their area. And second, we really have gotten bogged down in what I call bumper sticker campaign legislation.
What does that mean?
Let's talk about, we're gonna let parents come in and tell us what books we need to ban. We're gonna have a vaccine passport. We're gonna make sure that women can't get abortion pills through the mail. All this sort of legislation that we're dealing with that is really just meant to give fodder for campaign season. And we've got better things to do down here than that.
Do you think the government should regulate employees, how they should work, how they should function?
What I think we need to do is allow local jurisdictions to control employment laws in their jurisdiction. So in this state, we have a state minimum wage. We don't let the city of Atlanta, for example, set minimum wage within their jurisdiction. We don't even let local counties and cities determine what pay they should have for their contractors when they're spending city money. And then this year we passed a bill that said we won't even let local governments help employees have predictability at work. And what I mean by that is we will not let local governments say that if you're going to have somebody on call for work, say in the service industry for a restaurant or what have you, they're not paid. And there are some local communities that try to protect their workers and say, well, if you're going to keep people on the hook, if they're going to be on call, you need to pay them, or you need to guarantee them a certain number of hours, because they're not paying people the wages that they deserve. They're not giving them predictable hours. And so not only are they getting paid poorly, but they're not able to go out and get a second job to make up for that income that they're not having. And we should just let local governments take care of their people. I think it's very hateful that the state decided it needed to step in and say, not only are we not going to help working men and women, but we're not going to let you, local governments, help working men and women either. It's just really disgraceful.
Okay. Quick answer. On a scale of 1 to 10, how do you rate this session?
4.
4?
You know what? I'm going to give it a 6 just for the mental health parity bill. Okay. A very big bright spot here, but otherwise I give it a 4.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. All right.
Absolutely.
Donna, back to you.
Thank you, Brenda. It's kind of interesting to hear from a Democrat about how they feel about it. I mean, there are a lot of good things, definitely, as she mentioned, mental health parity. That was bipartisan, but there's some things that the Democrats still are not feeling good about.
Local control and that whole discussion was really interesting this session, starting with redistricting, and then continuing with other issues of what local governments can do. And that may be an interesting, bigger topic during the election season is where do Republicans and Democrats stand on local control and what local governments can do. And that's even more interesting in the bigger idea of all the cityhood initiatives. So that's definitely something that's I think is an interesting, bigger philosophical discussion on the campaign trail.
Yeah, so cityhood initiatives. So we had Mapleton, Lost Mountain, Vinings, and East Cobb. Right. And the 3 of them, Lost Mountain, Vinings, and East Cobb, are going May 24th. The voters are going to decide whether or not. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. And there's not a lot of turnaround until then in terms of getting out the vote.
That's exactly right. But we're already seeing major pushes, public pushes for and against cityhood in all three of those jurisdictions. And so anybody who's watching in Cobb County, it's time to start looking into those issues. And a lot of the issues they're going to have to think about are which services are your new city going to provide? How are those going to be paid for? Who is going to be the leadership of your new city? Those things are really, now's the time to start thinking about that, because it will be an up or down vote by the voters in those districts, only in those districts. Not all of Cobb County gets to decide, just the people who would be directly affected. And so that'll be something that I think also could increase turnout in a lot of those areas as well, because people are going to want to have a say on the future of their districts. And when we talked about redistricting, to me that was really like an emotional low of this session, when we saw the Republican lawmakers redistricting and voting on local maps in specifically Gwinnett County and Cobb County that are controlled by Democrats, the sort of the Republicans trumping with their power, their statewide power over the local power in those jurisdictions. You could just feel the hurt feelings and the animosity and the bitterness in the building. And then I will say today felt like, finally a bright spot now that they have passed that mental health parity bill unanimously. The governor signed it today, and there was this huge signing ceremony with Democrats and Republicans. So it was sort of a nice way to end the session that really began on a low note.
Yeah, and I think some of that bitterness still exists. I mean, I think that's why you heard Representative Evans start off with, I'll give it a 4, and then realize, okay, today I can give it a 6, because there was a lot of hurt coming out of that redistricting session, and that people are still feeling in the beginning of this session.
And it's going to be interesting to see what happens in January, when we're going to see significant turnover at the legislature. You're looking at possibly 50 to 60 to 70 new members, just depending on how races shake out. There are going to be a lot of new faces at the Capitol, fresh faces, and so it's going to be interesting to see kind of what feelings of those are left hung over from that, along with the new people and how they get integrated into it.
And they'll come in fired up, ready to do some, maybe make some changes and run into some roadblocks as they always do. But I think and the other thing, we're losing is a lot of that institutional knowledge. So we'll have to see what happens with that. We can get into that a little bit more, but right now, back to the Capitol. And Brenda, you have somebody else for us.
I have one final guest, and that is Representative Mary Margaret Oliver, and she is with me now. Of course, we're going to talk about 1013. You were on that committee that got this from the drawing board to reality. What do you want Georgians to know about that mental health bill?
It's possible to do good work down here in a bipartisan way to really serve people who are in crisis based on psychiatric disasters that every family has to face. I'm so delighted that we had so many advocates here for the bill signing. It's really a thrill that we can serve people who need help. We have money to do it, and we were able over about 6 months with the leadership of Kevin Tanner, a former rep, to put together a bill that came really from substance experts. There weren't any politicians involved. Usually I was the only elected person in the room. And then when the speaker made his pivotal decision to make this bill happen with his authority and to make it bipartisan and to name Chairman Todd Jones and myself what the speaker called his co-pilots. It's really been a remarkable journey, even with the long political career I've had. It's a very unique opportunity to pass a substantive, broadly impactful bill for Georgia citizens.
It helps so many people.
It helps so many different people. It has recommendations from law enforcement, recommendations to cancel student loans so people can serve underserved areas, because we have big workforce issues. It supports law enforcement in the co-responder program and the outpatient program. It also really enforces, for the first time, gives us legislative tools to enforce the principle of parity. The insurance industry can no longer dodge that obligation. They have to support fully spending and fully implementation that mental health services and physical health services will be paid the same. I'm just thrilled that we had such a variety of subject experts participating and that we were successful. I never anticipated unanimous votes from both the House and the Senate.
You have served in the House and the Senate. Right. You've been here for 28 years.
Right.
How is this session different? How does it compare to others?
We are, again, Georgia. We are in the national spotlight politically. What Georgia has done in the last year and a half in the switch from Republican to Democrats elected has made Georgia nationally in focus. And so this year has a tremendous amount of politics involved. We have a contested Republican primary, the first time I've ever seen it, and we have an enormous amount of money that'll be coming to Georgia from both parties. So it's a uniquely political environment, and that's why I'm so thrilled that a bill that was bipartisan and the politics were all positive to pass a mental health reform bill that has meaningful relief for families in crisis. We can do good work in this environment. We just have to work hard, and we have to be inclusive.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank
I could
you.
listen to you all night. Thank you so much. Congratulations on the
Appreciate
bill. Thank you. Well, now it's law. All right, Donna, back to you.
Thank you so much, Brenda. You know, the Representative Mary Margaret Oliver talked about it. It was a uniquely political environment, and it really was. We saw a lot of that.
We did, and she knows from politics because she has been in that building for decades, even ran for lieutenant governor herself. And something else that has really struck me, along with the retirements that we are seeing this session, a number of lawmakers will not be back because they're running for statewide office. And those are really some of the brightest stars in their party who are either going to be in charge of something or gone next time around. But that has also made these bills and this session much more political because a lot of these lawmakers running statewide have their eyes on something else. Their motivations have changed and their goals have changed. So you look at somebody like Burt Jones is running for lieutenant governor, and he's running against our Senate President Pro Tem Butch Miller. So those are two very high-profile Republican senators battling it out. Jen Jordan, who's a Democratic senator right now, running for Attorney General. She gave her farewell speech today, but that means that she won't be in the state Senate next year either. And a number, you could kind of go through the list of who else is running. Tyler Harper was just giving his farewell address. He's running for Agriculture Commissioner, which is a statewide post. And that has made the Senate in particular more political this year than I think I've seen them in the past, more combative, more partisan. And so you really felt the need on the House side for House Speaker David Ralston and somebody like a Calvin Smyre to really cool it down to get legislation through on their side. And it has really felt different. The 2020 election, in truth, never ended. And so a lot of these elections bills are still all about the 2020 election. And so it's just been this ongoing conversation, and the politics have really never stopped.
Yeah, a lot of the people, or as you mentioned earlier, are running against other Republicans. A lot of Republicans are running against other Republicans, so that makes things a little different too. I know you've got some information you can pass along.
So my colleague Sam Gringlass is in the House Rules Committee, and what he's texted me so far is the elections provision involving the Georgia Bureau of Investigation has been attached to a judiciary bill and is now set for a vote in the House. And for those in the audience who don't know, what that legislation does is allows the GBI to begin its own investigations of elections issues. Right now, they have to be called in. So this is what's called original jurisdiction. The other thing is, just moments ago, Senate Bill 456, the abortion bill is now up for a vote. So we are now setting up for a very, very interesting night tonight. So for those who don't know, that legislation bans the mailing of abortion pills. And the other interesting thing that I have not heard as much also is the idea of public colleges and schools not being able to dispense those pills on their properties.
Yeah, I think we're going to hear, I got the same word, that the SB 456 is something that is going to the House tonight. So that was a big one we were looking at.
Absolutely. The state of Georgia has already passed an extremely restrictive abortion bill that is tied up in the courts, but the state House and state Senate here have continued to push smaller, more targeted abortion measures. And this was the big one, the question on abortion medication. Could it be mailed, and can it even be received in state if it is being mailed from out of state? And so that is something that would be another restriction on women in the state of Georgia, no matter at what point in their pregnancy we're talking.
And that could take some time tonight for some debate on that. I did also get word that Sonny Perdue is visiting in the Senate. Oh. So that's kind of interesting.
Absolutely.
The incoming chancellor of the university
the
system.
Current chancellor.
Yeah, well, I guess
sworn in on April 1st.
I guess he's in. So
yes.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. We've got final thoughts because we're wrapping it up here.
It's going to be a wild finish.
You really?
I mean, we've got abortion.
After
we've
midnight.
got elections. Yeah, it's going to be fun.
Yeah, so most people think that it has to end at midnight. It does not.
It does not. It does not. I will be stopping at Starbucks on my way down to the Capitol. And also, I mean, listen, stranger things have happened. It could be Governor Brian Kemp's last legislative session. There are just a lot of twists and turns that could still happen in the state of Georgia. And as we know, the surprises are what we can count on around here.
Yeah, your final thoughts? Anything more you want to say?
I'm looking forward to whoever's inauguration or re-inauguration. We're going to be here in a couple of months, and to see all the new lawmakers and to see all the new chair people. It's exciting. You know, yes, we geek out about this
stuff.
Yeah, we love this stuff.
We just hang out and talk to each other all day.
We really do.
Thank you for people can't hang out with us any longer. We have a hardworking, talented team behind the scenes dedicated to bringing you this show. I want to extend my personal thank you to all of them. And while we're ending the show, you can go on Twitter at GPB News for updates throughout the evening, and tune into Political Rewind from Bill Nigut tomorrow morning at 9 to wrap up the session. From all of us at Lawmakers, have a good night.
I hope we're still not here at 9.
I mean, can't you tell by my behavior? Okay, maybe not. And my mother, Doris Mullis, she was a choir director over the kids that went to the Chancellor Choir. I know you know this by my singing voice. And she was over the Ladies Auxiliary for the American Legion and PTA president. So my family gave me a sense of duty. Sit down.